the skipper's in the
Conning tower.
conning tower,
Yeah.
and he will tell you, move 10 degrees port, whatever. But I liked it anyhow, It's nice. I was in charge.
The
Take
conning
some.
tower. You probably don't know what it is.
No.
It's an enclosure where the controlling officers go into it, and we had 8-inch steel all around that position
Yeah.
to protect them from hits, but the 8-inch shells went right through it.
Wow.
Yeah.
The Japanese had a good navy, or they had a good navy?
They were good.
Wow.
30 bums were good night fighters. Very good night fighters. Off Guadalcanal, where my ship was sunk, there were 6 Japanese cruisers came down, high speed, full speed. They came down between Savile Isle and Guadalcanal. The American squadron consisted of the Quincy, Vincennes, Astoria, and an Australian cruiser, the Canterbury. Now the Canterbury had a Commodore aboard it. The Commodore is one rank higher than a captain. So he was in charge of the 4 cruisers, 3 of which were American. So he decides to go, first of all, he separated them. Instead of keeping the 4 together for firepower, he put 2 ships on one side of the island, 2 cruisers on the other side. And then he went ashore to speak to the Marine commander without telling the captains of the ships that he was leaving. So when the Japanese came down, they're waiting for orders from him. What do you want to do? You want to do this or that? Nothing. So by the time the captains of the ships decided to take action on their own, the damn battle was over. The first thing the Japanese did, their 6 cruisers, they had 4 torpedoes in a rack, one on the starboard, one on the port. They came down, and the 6 cruisers let go with their port torpedoes. That's 4 from each, 6. That's 24 torpedoes.
Wow. Wow.
One torpedo hit just forward of turret 1 on the Quincy, and it separated the forecastle from the rest of the ship. Just broke it right off. I got pictures of it, of the Quincy on the bottom without the bow. Well, what happened? Now the Quincy's doing 20 knots, and the bow was off. The water is hitting the bulkhead. 20 knots this way, going into the ocean. The water just pushed the bulkheads in and just flooded the entire front. The front went down, the back came up, and it just went down like a submarine.
Oh,
Amazing.
how many survived?
371 went down with the ship. And half of those guys weren't dead. Topside was so riddled from shells that all the topside hatches were warped and they couldn't open them. The topside hatch was just about this size. You couldn't open it, but in the middle you had an escape hatch. It was 18 inches in diameter, and only one man can go up at a time. So now this big water tender, the stories I heard from the fellows, big heavy set guy, big belly, he couldn't fit through that.
Wow.
So he stood at the foot of the ladder. As the fellows got their head and arms through, he would get the sole of their shoe and just
Push them
Pop
up.
'em right.
catapult them out.
Wow.
Now the fellows in the forecastle, that was where interior communication was. Those fellows where they separated from the ship, I'm pretty sure there was some of them were trapped in the compartments that wasn't flooded,
Wow.
but it went down anyway.
Holy shit.
Tony,
Jesus.
what happened to you in the war? What'd you do?
Oh, I hung out in some of the most dangerous bars in
Havana?
Havana. Yeah, it was tough. I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
I was part of the home guard.
You took care of Sanford Street?
Yeah, I took care of Sanford Street, Otisville, all those places. Yeah, I had quite an area to cover.
Wow. That was impressive.
I told you I met fellows from the CC camp in New Zealand. And I met Leno and another guy. I forgot what lane, Mike Leno, I think it was.
He was my age. Mike.
In New Caledonia.
Wow. Holy
Knew me in New Caledonia. Him and another fella from Myrtle Avenue. They were behind the PX. They were selling, you know. But and I walked in, and I spotted them. They spotted me. I went over, shook their hands, and I told them, "Who's protecting Myrtle Avenue?"
Who's taking care of the neighborhood?
Can you guys talk about? I just want to get it on tape. The bed bugs, just for a couple minutes. Just tell me. I'm fascinated with bed bugs.
Well, what they call now, they're saying now we have a lot of bed, but we had bed bugs that used to cover the floor under our bed. And of course, then we had to get the ones out that were in the
The
coils
springs.
of the spring.
Every morning,
We used to take the shoe.
No, once a week we did.
once a week, you clean them out.
Take the shoe and hit those springs, and they would just come down, and then you had to crush all those.
You should hear them hit the
And the blood.
Yeah, we used to
Score.
put newspapers on the floor.
Yeah, right. the
And you would
newspaper.
hear them hitting the newspapers
Yeah.
as they fell out of the spring.
Oh my
Sorry
God.
to say.
And you try to step on them before they ran off the paper. You know, so you didn't want to dirty your floors, which hadn't been washed in 3 years.
Yeah. You didn't want to wash it. 'cause,
Yeah, right.
And what about how'd you guys stay cool in the summertime when you had to like sleep or
We kept all the windows open and we slept on the fire.
on a fire
Yeah,
extinguisher?
Yeah.
fire escape or the front stoop. We on
You
Star
slept
Street.
on the front stoop?
Yeah, well, we didn't lay down.
Oh.
We would just sit there and
And
just
slouch.
head back and maybe take a nap. You know.
No air conditioners or did you have fans or any
Yeah,
fans
we
in the
had
house?
handheld fans. That,
Fire escapes too. You used to
Yeah,
sleep on a
fire
fire
escape.
escape.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And my father used to trap the pigeons and make marinara
Oh,
sauce
yeah.
with the pigeons.
Yeah, everybody used to fly pigeons in those
Yeah.
days. Yeah.
But my
How the
father
hell did he
killed as
trap
many
'em?
as he could.
Yeah.
Sometimes
He would feed them?
No, I don't know if he fed them, but he would. I would remember him standing by the window and then hitting them with something. I don't know if he had a. And they would fall over, he'd bring them in, and then
Put them in the sauce?
and, yeah, and,
Yeah.
well, you take the feathers off, and then you just break off the feet, and then the
It
rest
was
went in the
called
sauce.
squab.
That's what
they
it was
were
called?
Yeah.
Did you ever see them by the liquor store? This guy would come around some mornings early, throw feed on the right in front of the store, and the pigeons would come down about, and he'd have a big net and just
Get out.
yeah,
really?
he'd catch maybe 10 or 12, get them right away. I guess it was against the law. Put him into his car. He had
Yeah.
a big box there, and drive away.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah. I think he used to sell them to the Chinese restaurants.
Oh, jeez.
You had Chinese restaurants back then?
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Geez, we're not that old.
Can't believe
Holy
that.
shit.
What about telephones? Now you had a
And all the time we were getting chickens, we'd hear.
Yeah.
Tony to make a phone call. You had to go down to the candy
Yeah,
shop,
to
To the
Drugstore.
candy store.
drugstore.
Yeah.
Whatever store was close to you that you
Candy
knew the
store.
owner,
Yeah.
and you would ask him if he would please call you if a call came in.
Yeah, those were public telephones.
Wow.
I mean, you had to pay a nickel,
Right.
you know.
But he would take phone calls.
Yeah, in other words, if a relative of mine wanted to contact my mother and my father,
Right.
They would call the store. And then if he had a kid or somebody there, he'd send them to come and ring your doorbell.
You don't
Unbelievable.
get that service today.
Wow.
Just like if you got hurt, you went to the drugstore
Yeah.
and they patch you up. I
Yeah.
guess this was good business sense.
I remember going there for what? To get,
What, the drugstore?
to get,
Rubbers for Sonny?
but it was for Sonny. He had a black eye. He was in a fight.
Oh, the leeches.
The leeches, yeah. I remember going to the drugstore, and in a paper cup, they would put some water in it with a leech
Yeah.
and bring it home, and they used to put it on his eye.
Oh, yeah.
He used to send me to the drugstore for the some sort of a perfume. He called it Italian Bomb.
Italian, I remember that Italian bomb.
So I laid a fart and ran away.
That's a good one.
Uncle
I
Mike,
never heard that.
Giant bomb.
you gotta give me one good bar story.
Yeah, one good bar story
We had the one,
with John. Tell him what John's.
John, then
Oh,
you had the
what
one when the
about
guy was.
rat? I just know that story.
Yeah, well,
but-
can we hear it one more time?
Yeah, he wants to
The
know.
shortened version?
Yeah, he wants to record it.
Yeah.
That's a good
How
story.
did that
Well,
work?
here again, it was a Friday night. We were all looking at the fights, and I heard this noise behind the bar, and I looked. It's a big rat. So I had a trap. I had bacon. I cooked a little bacon in the stove.
They liked it medium rare.
Yeah.
Nice odor. Put it in a trap. Put it behind the bar. Continued to look at the fights. All of a sudden, boom! And he's bouncing up and down. He couldn't get out of it. Well, anyway, he died. So I got him, wrapped him in paper, put him in a paper bag. Was going to throw it in the garbage when I closed. About that time, telephone rang. It was John, my brother-in-law John. He was down at Tippy's, 2 blocks away, another bar. He said he was running short of cash and he wanted loaned to $20. So I said, okay. So we sent this fella Ishki up to the bar for the $20. Ishki comes up to the bar. I give him the 20. As he's walking out, I call him. I said, oh, Ishki. I said, we just had some Chinese food. I got a couple of egg rolls left. I know John and Dolores likes egg rolls. Here, bring them down to John. I give him the bag with the rat. He gets it, he takes it.
I can't even imagine.
He leaves. 5 minutes later, the phone rings. It's John. You dirty bum. I said, what happened, John? He said, Ishki come in with this bag and told us there were egg rolls in it. They were sitting at the bar. When Dolores, who loved Chinese food, heard egg rolls, she grabbed the bag, opened it up, and doing so, the rat fell right in front of her. She screamed, knocked 2 guys off the stool. The rat went sliding down the bar. Then Ishki gets on the phone.
Oh, he cheated, but he went in, didn't
Yeah, he says, he says, on the way back down, he was driving the car. He says, I decided to steal one of the egg rolls. So he reaches in and says, gee, it don't sound like it.
Don't feel like it.
So he takes it out and the rat falls in his lap. He goes like this, the car jumped the curb, hit a couple of ash cans before he can get control. Then he put it back in the bag and he gave it to John.
Oh my God.